So last week I shared a Chrome plugin that adds a similar datasets section to a Hugging Face datasets page. So we can see what that looks like at the moment if we install this extension called Hugging Face Similar in Chrome. And then we reload this page. You see we get a bunch of datasets that should be similar to this particular dataset. And we can click through to these and hopefully find other datasets that can be useful for what we're working on. But the problem is, at the moment, this Chrome plugin calls this API here, and this API takes in a dataset ID and then returns some similar datasets. But if we go in and look at what this API is actually doing, there's a bunch of fast API stuff. But essentially it's getting some embeddings, and these embeddings are created using these Snowflake Arctic embedding models. So these models are very good for doing similarity search in general, but what we're actually using to create these embeddings for this particular application, well, basically what we do is we take the dataset card and create an embedding from that. And if you spend any time on the hub, you'll know that the length and quality of these datasets cards is quite varied. The other thing that is kind of a shame about this approach is that we're relying only on the information in this dataset card, when actually for many datasets on the hub, we have this rich information that we find through the datasets viewer. So in this case, we have a preview of all of the data in this data set. And we also have some information about what kind of data that is. So in this case, we have a string, which is classes. Here we have a list. And all of this information potentially is quite useful for understanding what a data set is about and what tasks it supports. So you can see that there's conversations, category, subcategory. All of these things can give us a clue what a data set is about. So it would be much nicer if we could actually use this for creating the embeddings to find similarity models. And that's what I'm starting to work on this week using Argilla. So we have this datasets viewer description and queries annotation task. And if we go in and look at this, we can see we have a preview of a dataset on the hub with the viewer. And then we have a dataset description and a search query, both generated by a large language model, which has seen a preview of this dataset via the Datasets Viewer API. And what the annotation task is basically trying to do is to see how good these descriptions and artificial search queries are. And once we have this data, there's a few things we can do with this. With these search queries, one thing we can do is train a sentence transformer model, which will map these search queries to a hub dataset based on the actual content of the dataset rather than the README. And the other thing that we can do is, instead of creating the embeddings from this dataset card, we can actually create this much more concise textual representation of a dataset. So for example, this one from this datasets viewer preview, and then create an embedding for that. And that means that if we're looking at similarity for datasets which don't have a dataset card, so if this was all empty, it could still grab the information from this viewer, create this dataset summary, and then from this summary create embeddings which could then be used to look up other similar datasets on the hub. So this is a little bit of an experiment, but I'm curious to see how well it works out.